I don't like to put the loss all on one guy, but I could put it all on Vernon Davis missing that block at the start of the second half and then dropping a surefire touchdown in the fourth quarter. Is it too much to put it all on him?
Yeah, well, when you have people running as wide open as Carolina did in the secondary, you could put it on the safeties. Deshaun Jackson dropped a third down pass. Pierre Garçon dropped a third down pass. Jordan Reed got thrown out of the game for a stupid penalty.
Is it stupid to punch somebody in their face mask when they have they also have one of those eye shades through like that? That doesn't strike me as the smartest thing to do, especially you have a bad shoulder, then you throw a punch, get yourself thrown out of a game, and meanwhile, when you're punching a face mask. Strikes me as not the smartest thing to do.
Pick any of those things that you said, and none of them fall in the smart category.
Oh.
So it's almost a multiple choice.
How'd we get to this? How'd we get to this point? Like they were a playoff team, and now they lost 3 out of 4. How'd we get here?
Well, they've been a football team that's been a 60-minute football team. And they've won games at the end. I mean, they should have beaten Cincinnati with a field goal. I mean, it's one thing after another thing to have an opportunity to be able to try and make a play, to not make a play, and that's really what's on them. I mean, it's been a contribution from different elements of the game. The offense at times has made mistakes. The defense at times has been very vulnerable, and the kicking game has not been one where you can say, okay, the kicking game is helping us out. You can't miss extra points. You can't miss field goal opportunities. This is not a good enough football team to say we're going to dominate somebody.
Put your seatbelt on.
This is a football team that basically has to play 60 minutes, and at the end they're either going to win it or lose it.
Joe Theismann joining us in the Doug Gottlieb Show on CBS Sports Radio. All that said, I can't help but still be impressed by Kirk Cousins, right? Like you missed field goals that hurt them in the Cowboys game, although he lit up the Cowboys. You mentioned the drops. I thought he played pretty well last night despite being under duress by the Carolina Panthers. You're still all in on Kirk Cousins, right?
I am still all in on Kirk Cousins. The situation with Kirk is one where you got a guy who has 29 yards worth of running behind him. And if you've got just 29 yards worth of running, how much are you going to be able to keep the defense off balance and start to be able to try, for example, and have a balanced running attack? It's just not going to happen. And so, you have to run for more than 29 yards or 30 yards in a game to have a chance to be able to drop back and do certain things with the football.
Especially when
I think the Redskins have weighed so heavily. I mean, they've really relied so heavily on Kirk, and they put everything on his shoulders. They've been an inconsistent running team. You started with Matt Jones, now you wind up with Robert Kelly, who's done a pretty darn good job, and Chris Thompson.
I love Fat Rob. Fat Rob's one of the great nicknames of all time, by the way.
Oh, it's one of the great nicknames. You just can't drop back every time and expect something good to happen.
What's going on with your car, Joe? That's what we all want to know. There's dinging. Do you have your seatbelt on? What is
my wife and I are picking up some paintings, and Robin was outside helping the guys get the paintings in the back of the truck.
Okay.
So I'm out running around here doing things that you have to do before Christmas.
Okay.
Pick up Santa stuff. Robbie says Santa stuff.
All right, good. As long as you're good. I was worried that you were driving without your seatbelt on, and that was the dinging that we're hearing. The great Joe Theismann joining us on the Doug Gottlieb Show on CBS Sports Radio. I pointed out last year they didn't beat a team with a winning record. This year they look like a non-playoff team. It looks like they have the quarterback of the future. They have to figure out how to negotiate with Cousins. But I guess the question is they're kind of stuck in this. They're not terrible. They're a little bit better than good, but they're not great. How fixable are their issues in taking that from them? They're above average, but not one of the elite teams.
I think they're very fixable. I don't think this football team is a far way away from being a pretty darn good football team. Obviously, I think the safety position has been an issue the last couple of years. I still think that needs to be addressed. They lost, David Bruton started the season, and then you had D'Angelo Hall. Both of them were gone. Will Blackman's a converted corner, winds up playing safety. You have Kendall Fuller, a rookie, coming in and playing for you in the secondary. Linebackers, you lose Will Compton in this game. We were never a big defensive front, more athletic up front than anything else. I think from a wide receiver standpoint, you've got Pierre and Deshaun, both of them on free agents, who become free agents. You have to settle the Kirk Cousins financial situation to address the other situations, I think, on the football team first. That's got to be a priority. Then you'll figure out what kind of money you'll have to spend of the 166 that's available. You know, the offense have right now they have twice as much money invested on the offensive side of the ball, roughly $83 million, versus $43 million on the defensive side, and that's going to have to change.
All right, so how do you handle the Kirk Cousins negotiation? Like, I know you've always been all in, but most people would say some sort of sensible contract, lock him up for, I don't know, 2 years or so. And of course, you have in your back pocket, if you're the Redskins, we can franchise tag him, but that's $20 million off that $160 million on the cap. So how do you handle it if you're trying to find the sweet spot in the middle?
That's $24 million next year, not 20.
Okay.
It actually goes to 24. So, and what do you accomplish? I mean, if you franchise me one more year, if I'm Kirk Cousins, you franchise me, what do you need to see from me that tells you that I'm a quarterback? I mean, really, how much more do I have to do to show you that I'm capable of being your quarterback? And so I think what you do is you have to sign him. I think it's 7 years. It's roughly, about a $30 million bonus. You guarantee 30 to 35 on an injury scenario. Then you wind up with a situation where you backload the contract. So in year 6 and 7, he winds up making, $20 million or $24 million. And hopefully you never get there because you'll renegotiate it. And that number never becomes a factor. So it's all a matter of the guarantee, the length of the contract, and the injury guarantee. Those are the three things that you have to deal with. Now, if you give a $30 million bonus and you spread it out over 7 years, you're talking a little over $4 million a year. So that really doesn't hurt your cap a whole lot. Plus, you only pay him maybe a couple million in the first year. So, I've sat down and run these numbers out. And here's the question is, where do you go? That's the big question. If you don't have Kirk Cousins, where do you go? You've invested 3 years in the kid.
Right. No, that's the hard thing. Then the question becomes, where does Kirk Cousins go where he's going to get more money? And as much as you could say, he might get more money, I think what happened with Osweiler, although Cousins has been better than Osweiler, I think that gives some people some pause, right? But yeah, there's Cutler. Maybe Romo is out there on the free agent market. This actually might be.
Doug, don't even do that. Don't even go there. What you're going to pay? You're going to pay Tony Romo $10, $12, $15 million. I mean, he's right now. His cap number next year is $24 million. Again, he's got a huge cap number with the Dallas Cowboys. So the only thing they can do is release him outright and say, "Okay, look, you're gone. We're going to move on with Dak," which they should, because he's proven he can play. But the problem you run into is, again, the cap number. I think now you have to start all over after you've invested all this time in teaching a kid how to play, putting players around him. You're going to go out and you're going to say, okay, we're going to start over with the quarterback position. I mean, you're better off keeping, Colt McCoy and saying, okay, Colt, you're going to be our quarterback of the future. So, I mean, it's the whole thing in the negotiation. Both sides have to feel like they got something out of it. And I think that Kirk and his people have to sit down and say, what's the difference between $122 million and $128 million? Or what's the difference in $125 million and $117 million?
Right.
You're never going to see the back end of that contract. The only thing that agents want to do is they want to have that number published so that they can go out and start to recruit other quarterbacks.